everyone is a Swami student. And then he pulls my shirt, because I was in this dream, I was wearing a white shirt. He pulls the shirt and he says, this white shirt, it doesn't indicate Swami student. What is white? White is purity. If you have purity of heart, you're a Swami student.
Sairam, dear listeners, welcome to Sai SOUL 100. Our guest today is Brother Sree Kodavatiganti, who is joining us from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Sairam Sree, thank you for joining Sai SOUL 100.
I am Sister Prabha. Such a joy to be back.
Yes, actually, in fact, remember 2 years ago when we started this project of Sai SOUL 100, you were part of the team, and we, with Swami's grace, were able to initiate this. And 2 years down the line, it's your time to share the story.
I know. I think it's very interesting because um, we were talking about in that first episode, Sai Soul stands for Stories of Unconditional Love. And I think that it's opportunities like this because Swami chooses us all. We all have stories of some sort, but it's not until opportunities like this that we get the chance to really think about, reflect on, and then share these stories, right? So how many stories that we've had, and all the speakers that have been able to come through and the devotees that have been able to share, it's been wonderful to be a part of this journey.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Sree. Please share your story.
So, yeah, I was thinking on that theme when I was thinking about this opportunity, about um, sharing how Swami's unconditional love is in our lives. And that's a common theme for us all, because if we didn't experience his unconditional love, we wouldn't be so deep in this organization. And so I think, we all share these stories. And for me, I was thinking about my relationship with the divine and sort of this unconditionality that is in front of the love part. Because for me, I felt like he was always there. But this relationship, if I'm to be very honest, it's probably the trickiest one that I have. Of all the relationships that I have, this relationship with Swami is the hardest and the trickiest, because it's a relationship with yourself at the end of the day, right? It's a relationship with the divine. So I really think about it in two parts. There's a part of it that is, he picked me. And I don't mean that like grandiosely. I just mean to say that he has been a part of all of our lives and he chooses us for those reasons, right? Um, and for me, I think it started when I was young, because I was introduced to the organization as my parents were introduced to the organization. And I think that I see him constantly opening his hand, calling out for us, even as young as that. So, when we first met Swami or were introduced to Swami, that birthday, um, we were kind of like getting ready to get out and to do a couple of things. And just like kind of very spontaneously, people started appearing at our house. We were living in Australia at the time. And that's where we were first introduced to Swami, from a devotee who would travel to Prashantanilayam and back. And there was somebody who came to the door and he said, I just felt like I wanted to bring this lingam to your house. Can we do Abhishekam? And then somebody else came and they were like, I don't even think like we all know the reason for why, but people brought food, people, like people started coming to the house. And when we talk about the story, we're still very perplexed about what happened. Why did this all happen? But I see it as a sign of like Swami saying from the very beginning that there was, he's always coordinating everything, and that on my birthday that he decided to do this. And I think that's my relationship. It's very like with him. is it's very spontaneous and it's very um, yeah, there's no like rhythm or rhyme. I can't say that I find that I can say, oh, Swami's always appeared to me in this way. But whenever I call, I know that he's listening. And there's one time that was a little bit more apparent than the rest. Um, I was in high school and I was volunteering at a hospital, and I know being a teenager, I was kind of like, I'm very independent. So dad was like, do you want me to drop you off? I said, no, 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 I'm going to take the bus. I'll be fine. And so um, the time comes for the bus stop, like to go to the bus stop, and I know I'm late. So at the time, we live on a hill, and I'm running down this hill, and I'm just like, okay, Swami, if you want to make yourself known in this time, like now is the time to do it. Right now, I need to make it to this hospital. I don't, I don't want to be late. And selfishly, I needed the hours for to graduate. So I kind of was like, I really need these hours. If you're gonna pull through, right now is the time. So I'm getting to the main intersection where the bus is gonna be at, and I see the bus, and the bus beats me to the bus stop. So I'm across the road, and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do now? So the crosswalk turns on, and I race it across, and I try to chase this bus down because I have really no other option. It's really this bus, and I can't. My pride almost stops me from calling my dad or anybody else for backup. But I didn't need to because Swami pulled up. There was a minivan that came like right next to me, and this lady pulled down her window and she said, "Do you need a ride?" And I know this sounds crazy, but I got into the car. I got into the minivan, and um, as soon as I got into the minivan, the first thing I noticed was this. It wasn't big, but it was a cross that was definitely, it was visible from her rear view mirror. It was this wooden cross, and I thought, okay, that's somewhat a sign of surety. And then uh, she said, "Where do you need to go? Like, are you chasing that bus, or are you going somewhere? Where can I drop you off?" And I said, "I am going, to volunteer, but you can just drop me off at the bus, like the next bus stop. I'll just catch the bus. It's fine." And so she's driving. We get to uh, a stop sign, and the bus is right in front of us. So I'm ready to leave. And before that, she's like, "Can I stop you for a second?" And I said, "Oh no." Before this, as we're driving, she said to me, "Can I do my rosary?" So I said, "Yeah, please go ahead." Um, I've never seen anybody do a rosary in the car, but she really wanted to, so I said, "Okay, go ahead, no problem." So as I'm getting out of the car, she said, "Can I tell you something really quickly?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "The Lord's always listening. The Lord's always listening. All you have to do is hear him." And I think now looking back at that scenario, I probably was very dismissive about it because I was just like, okay, lady, like I gotta go catch this bus. So, but and so I got out of the car, and I think that's just such a crazy coincidence, right? That I was just like, Swami, like if you're hearing me, I really need this thing to come through. And I think he was just saying, I hear you, I'm here, I hear you. Um, but I think that speaking about this relationship with Swami, right? As a teenager, you're never fully, full-heartedly convinced by these small things. And I will say that as a younger person in the Sai organization, of course, like what I valued more than anything else was physical interaction, And my physical interactions with Swami have been very, very playful, but very indirect. So, for example, we had all attended a pilgrimage from the United States to Prashanthi Nilayam. And like us as a family, we decided to stay after the pilgrimage. And during the pilgrimage, like the schedule is very set. They tell you when to show up. They tell you when, you line up for darshan. I don't know if it's because we were kids or I don't know what the adult schedule was exactly, but ours was very regimented. So the schedule after the pilgrimage is very much a la carte. You do what you want to do. But the one thing I kept hearing about was the token system, like setting up for darshan, um, getting the front couple of rows. And I was like, huh, what's all this talk about? Like what is this enthusiasm everybody has about getting to the front line? And so one day I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. Now, to do this, you have to get up very early, and I was very young, so it took a little bit of like a few attempts, but finally one day I woke up. So I went with dad. We completed, I think, meditation or something like that, and then we lined up. And I just wanted to observe. I didn't really want to participate, but somehow I ended up in the front of this row. So that means I have to put my hand into the bag and I have to pull out the token. And I remember dad actually like behind me when right before I did it, he was like, "Oh, pick something good, pick something good." And I was like, "I don't know what good is. I don't know what any like this is my first time doing this. I have no idea what any of this is." Um, but we ended up picking up one or two, one of those, the first row, the second row. So I was like, okay. And I remember like everybody running, I picked a number, everybody ran into the hall, and dad kind of guided me in there. And I was like, okay, so I guess this is interesting. I don't know what everybody's so jazzed up about, in terms of getting these row numbers. But so I was like patiently waiting, and it's a long time between when you get number one and when darshan actually happens. So eventually darshan happens, and Swami's walking down the path. And the interesting part of this, at least for me, the unique part of it is that Swami looks over, he looks at me, and he does this head nod that I don't think I see him do often. But it's something I do a lot. Like if I'm in conversation with somebody and I kind of go like, oh, okay, 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 yeah, 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 that makes sense. And yeah, he like did this series of head nods. He was just like, and then he looked away. And I just kind of took that to be like, oh, so this is what it takes to get you up out of bed, like to come see that and come to darshan. Um, so yeah, if that's those are the interactions I've had with him from a physical perspective. But it really came to a blow at one point. At one point, and I think I was in college, and I was saying, like you don't interact with me at all. Like I don't have any stories. I don't have anything. Um, it's, like you're, giving all these people pada namaskars, you're giving people, interviews, and not once have you done that for me. And um, something that I don't think a lot of people know is that I actually was admitted into Swami's school when I was younger. And I kind of really thought that was it. I thought the reason why, like, he was holding a vendetta against me or something, like, you didn't want to come to my school, so I won't, like, I won't uh, take the time to interact with you or something. So I was kind of like really mad about this like situation I was in. And I can't remember if it was that night or a couple of nights later, I get this dream where we're all in Sai Hall, and people are just kind of like he's sitting on the throne in the veranda, and people are like lined up to go up and take Pada Namaskar. And I was thinking to myself, like, this is all the same. Like, this is all the same. You're watch. When I come up and I go to take Pada Namaskar from you, like, you're gonna stop me. There's no way that you're gonna let me do this. Like, why all of a sudden you're gonna tell me that I can do this? So I was like, fuming in my head. Eventually, I'm the next one. I get up and he stops me. But this time it's not to, like to deny me the Pada Namaskar. And then he pulls my shirt because I was in this dream. I was wearing a white shirt. He pulls his shirt and he says, this white shirt, it doesn't indicate Swami student. What is white? White is purity. If you have purity of heart, you're a Swami student. That was the time that I started being like, wow, okay, maybe there is a connection here, Maybe that I he is listening to me. Like these aren't coincidences. These aren't series of like happenstances. Oh, I said something, something happened. That there's sort of this more deeper relationship. So I started listening to Swami's discourses a little bit more, and I will tell you this is sort of the uptick in the phase of when I started picking Swami. So there's this half where I feel like he's saying like he's standing there open arms waiting for me. And there was a point in my life where I started to reciprocate and I take his hand. And one part of it was that I was listening to a discourse of his, and he said um, that you should question everything, even me. He was like, people come to Prashanthi Nilayam, they come with blind faith. They don't ever ask, why am I here? And his explanation for that was when you question everything and you get an answer, then you build strong faith. And that faith will then kind of be the thing that carries you forward. And I thought to myself, wow, like he's being very vulnerable because, coming from a South Asian like background and culture, I'm sure everybody has gotten the explanation at one point in time, like, oh, we don't know, you just do it. So just do it, And he's saying, no, don't do that. Like this is your right to question me. And by that, we develop a relationship. And I think that he was absolutely right because that has been the cornerstone of my relationship with him, my reciprocation of my relationship with him, in that I feel that like the faith and the trust he has shown me have helped me say, okay, I'm ready now. And I think that, that this whole physical, non-physical piece was never at the crux of it. And for me personally, like I have felt so much closer to the universal form of Swami. And, I think that like every time I have felt the need, he has delivered. And I think the nail in the coffin for me was really when um, I was geared up to give this presentation and I was really worked up about it. And I know that, especially in the Sai family, like a lot of people are like, oh, you're such a good speaker, you do this and that. But I get very nervous, actually. Like I am a pile of nerves underneath it. Um, and so I was really, really afraid about this presentation. I remember just being like that guttural sort of fear of this thing, this impending day that was coming and this presentation that I needed to give. So I went to bed and this was like maybe 2 nights before. And I wake up in my dream to just pitch of black. And out of like the darkness, I see this like I can't remember what it is right now, but it was something very, very scary. I remember being like stuck to the ground. I was scared. And I thought, okay, like what's happening? Like, is this a night terror? Where am I supposed to go from here? And then I kind of like casually looked to my right and Swami's standing there. And I'm like, okay, good. So he's here. So he'll do something about this situation? Um, and so then I don't think anything would have prepared me for what he did. So he he kind of he sort of like points with like an open palm, like he's pointing at this thing and he's pointing at it with an open palm and he starts laughing. Um, and I didn't laugh with him because to me this thing was very scary and very real, and I didn't yet feel I had overcome whatever it. But yeah, he was in tears. He was hysterical. He just kept laughing, 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 laughing. And then at some point, as he laughed, more swamis appeared around this thing. And with them came this glow. And we didn't exchange any words in that moment, but to me, I always felt he was saying like, "You're afraid of this thing in life. Like you're gonna have to face so many more moments of this. This is life. There are these really high peaks of life where you have like so much emotion, but this thing will pass too, you know, like why are you so worried about it? This is, you know, so normal. And so now whenever I kind of get that gut feeling, that fear, I think about that moment. And you know, I never laugh with him. I'm never in a place where I'm laughing. Um, but I do think of him laughing. And I think it's a reminder to me that like this is transient, you know, these things will pass. Nothing here is permanent. But that, you know, has left me with a lot. I feel as supported whenever he shows up in my life, and in big ways, you know. But I kind of want to end with a story that again I think most people have heard, but I think it was where really I want to move my relationship with Swami to, which is there's a story Professor Anil Kumar talks about, and he narrates where he and Swami were doing darshan, and they end up on the veranda at the end. Swami has collected all the letters that he is from all the devotees from the darshan that day. And he turns to Professor Anil Kumar, and Professor Anil Kumar notes that Swami looks very sad, and he says, like, Swami, sorry, like, did I do something wrong? Why are you sad? And Swami points to the letters and says, you know, not a single one of these letters is a thank you. Each one of these letters is desires and more desires. And I think to myself that where I want to go and with my relationship with Swami is where I can take the gratitude for these big things that he's given me, and I can have gratitude for the small things that he's also given me, and the small ways in which he showed up, and the small ways he's made every day kind of easier than the next. And so with that, I want to thank you, Prabha. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of share these stories. I know that all the stories that have come through Sai Soul have shown me these small ways in which Swami shows up in our lives and have continued to inspire me.
Sairam, Sree, absolutely. Thank you so much. It is so resonating with me that yes, Swami shows up. You know, you started off with my relationship with divine, and even when you were so young, in subtle ways, Swami showed up. On your birthday, you get this lingam showing up and food, and then celebrating your birthday without being asked of, right? And you recognize that you didn't just, it wasn't just a passing thing. You recognize, you paused and you recognize that this is something that is unusual, right? And then of course you went on to the story of catching that bus in the midst of your ego and not asking your father for the ride. Swami showed you that yes, I'm listening to you, right? And that little
Yeah,
by little increased your attention towards him, awareness towards him, right? I just and then you said when you went to Parthi, Swami gave you this nod. So your journey as you grow, interactions with Swami is getting stronger and stronger with that nod saying that it, yeah. And the thing is, at that age, you chose to get up in the morning and go. And right, and
mm.
Swami gave you
Hmm.
a nod for that. And that's that's basically the life of journey of your life too, probably. You just need to get up and go. Do, right? And he will take care of the rest and he'll give you that nod and he will give that comfort that I'm there with you, even when you're fearful or even when you have challenging opportunities, challenges that are in front of you. Take it as an opportunity that Swami is going to be there and he's going to show up for you. He may be laughing, but he's comforting you, right? And then finally, that story that touched me is the dream of Swami coming and telling you that everybody is a Swami student, right?
Yeah,
You could have potential if your life if Swami's intention was for you to be a Parthi student, that would have happened. It wasn't supposed to happen, but your faith, your connection to Swami is very deep because he showed up in that dream and he said purity of the heart is important. It's not just a white shirt, right? And that everybody is Swami's student. And also you didn't have exact direct interactions with Swami, right? But yet your connection to Swami is deep and he's found ways to show himself to you, open his arms, and opening it and holding it open for you. And at one point, you chose to embrace it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You chose to notice him, you chose to open your arms for him. And now it's more of a growth together, right? Kind of coming in together and then going forward in your journey with him completely by your side.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could not say that better in that now I really see this as like a bi-directional relationship. You know, yes, I grow with him, and yeah, I feel like he's by my side. And I think it's no longer this relationship of, okay, like if you do this, I do, you know, like then I'll believe you, or in that transactional sense.
Sairam, Sree, thank you for joining Sai Soul 100.
Thank you, Prabha. Sairam.
Sairam, dear listeners, thank you for listening to Sai Soul 100 with Sree Kodavatiganti. I'm Prabha Swaminathan. Until next time, Jai Sairam.